might be watching this video, welcome to my channel. In this video I'm just going to talk about what my channel is all about, what I'm going to be doing, uploading stuff, and about, how many vehicles I've owned and how many I still own today, and just stuff like that. So I'm going to start out with the fact that I am a collector of these old cars like that and that people don't really, want to buy. They're kind of the uncollectible collectibles, as a coworker of mine told me one day, and I kind of latched on to the term. It's pretty accurate. So I've been collecting these things for the last, 5 or 6 years, and I buy a new one every year or so. Maybe sometimes I even buy two. And I've owned probably 8 vehicles in the last 5 or 6 years. So we'll get to talking about that. I plan on releasing a video probably, whenever I can find some information on a vehicle, something I'm fixing that there's not really much information on YouTube. I'll probably upload a little short video on how to do it. So next time somebody like me who's trying to fix something on one of these old cars that aren't very popular, they can have some information on that, so they don't have to rely on just trial and error, which I know can be quite irritating sometimes working on this old stuff. So we'll start out with a little tour of what I've got. We're at my shop right now, and I actually have another car that's at the house, so that's not even here, so you won't be able to see that, but maybe I'll make a video on that. I might sell it though. So we'll start off first things first with this one all the way back here. This here is a 1991 Buick Century. This was my first car here, and it's got a 3.3 liter V6 in there, and just over 100,000 miles. I bought it for $600, about 40 minutes from where I live, and needed a transmission rebuild, which I did in my garage, and it's been running strong ever since. I actually am gonna give it to my grandparents here this weekend, so by the time anyone sees this video, it'll likely be gone. It won't be in my possession anymore. It'll be in my grandparents' name and stuff by then. So, but it's been a good car. I don't drive it very often anymore, which is why it's going to my grandparents. It's taking up space here. I don't really need it. It's kind of crappy. It's front-wheel drive. I don't really like front-wheel drive cars, and it's fuel injected. I don't really care for fuel injected cars either. So it'll be going away, but it was a good car while it lasted. I did some work to it. This blue here, I repainted that because it was all rusted to shit. Everything was, rusted, falling apart, and the paint's peeling off now because it wasn't a very good job. But, I used a real paint gun and everything. It wasn't like I just rattle canned the thing. I did a real job on it. It's just, first car. I'm not getting rid of it because it's got sentimental value, but, I don't drive it anymore. Alright, the second vehicle I ever owned, I actually don't have it anymore. It was a 1984 Camaro Z28. It didn't run right, it had a starting issue, and it had the whole, GM thing where the key, doesn't work right. So, someone took a drill and just drilled out the column, which I always found really annoying. It's just like, replace it or don't fix it at all, don't just butcher it for the next guy. But, it had that, and I had it for about a year, and I decided I was going to give up on it because I figured out I like these old boats a lot more than the 80s sports cars. I'd prefer a Caprice over a Camaro, which is something that not many people can say that they want. So I had that car for a year. Didn't really like the way it drove, didn't like the way it looked, had needed a lot of work, so got rid of it. After that, I bought a 1975 Dodge Charger, which was a lot more my style. However, that car had a severe amount of issues as well. The cam lobes were, all worn off the tops of them, and timing was off, and the carburetor wasn't adjusted right, and it had 102,000 miles on it. It was just on its last leg. So, I was late for work just about every day because of that car. I was late for school about every day because of that car. It was just a piece of junk, so got rid of that one too. Then I bought probably the best car I ever owned, a 1987 Mercury Grand Marquis LS. So that's a luxury sedan, for those of you who wonder what that stands for. And it was a fully loaded Brougham version, and it had, all of the bells and whistles on it. It was just the best car I ever owned. but you know, I got rid of it, and that's, you know, the biggest mistake of my life, biggest regret I have yet so far, is getting rid of that car, because it was the most comfortable, most, you know, best handling, just best car I ever owned. No rust, less than 100,000 miles on it. The transmission went out on me. It had that, you know, if you ask any mechanic who lived through that time, who was a mechanic through that time, Ford's 4R70W transmission throughout the 80s was just a junker. It would blow out gears, the overdrive never worked right, it was just a piece of junk. So that's what happened to me. My transmission went out, and I was considering fixing it. The shop wanted $700 for it, so I was like, yeah, you know, we'll see what I can do. But then my battery went out, and it was a 900 CCA battery in that car, so that's a $200 battery. And you know, close to $1,000 for a car I only paid $2,000 for was kind of seeming a bit steep at the time. So I got rid of it, and I regretted that the day after I got rid of it. Just awful. I sold it to a bunch of kids for demo, and it just breaks my heart, because they probably destroyed that car, and it was just the best car I will probably ever own in my entire lifetime. After I sold that, I went and bought this car right here, and this just got brand new tires on. That's why they're blue. It's supposed to be white wall, but it's blue right now. I actually just pulled it out so I can get a pressure washer on it and pressure wash the blue off. But this is a 95 Lincoln Town Car. It's fully loaded, heated seats, all the bells and whistles. Nice car. The only car I've ever bought from a dealership. $2,500. It had a lean condition and needed new rear suspension. So I did that stuff, and you know, it's 130,000 miles on it, and it's still running good, and hopefully it'll get me a 2K. That's the goal. But you know, it's got some rust on it. Frame's pretty rough, and you know, it burns oil. It's got a couple of oil leaks. It might blow up. I don't know. We'll see what happens with it. But this car has been pretty good to me. I'd say it's right along with that Mercury. It's a good car. This really sold me on Fords. I really like my Fords. They're good cars. The next vehicle I bought after this car was the 1985 Chrysler Fifth Avenue, and that's the same car that Mike drives in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, which is why I bought it. I thought it was cool. But the one I bought was just absolutely whipped. It was in junk condition. There was not a single good body panel on the thing. It was just destroyed. And I bought it for too much. I bought it for $1,300. Should have only paid like $800, $700, but the frame was completely rotted out of it. So I had to get rid of it. There was no way around it. I told myself when I sold that Mercury I wasn't going to sell any other cars. I was just going to, you know, drive them into the ground, and if I ever get rid of them, it's to get rid of them to a junkyard, because they just completely failed me. But that Chrysler was really rough. It needed to go, and I wasn't going to be able to fix it, so I got rid of that too. Then there's this car. Now this is my most prized possession right here. This is a 1974 Mercury Monterey Custom. And this car, the reason it's so valuable to me is because this car belonged to my great-grandma. She bought this car brand new in 1973, September of 1973. It's when the new models came out. And it is just pristine. It's, you know, less than 100,000 miles. It ran perfect before the oil pump went out on it, which is why it's sitting here right now and I'm not driving it. You know, it needs new vinyl top eventually, and the paint's a bit faded on it, but this thing went through 4 generations of my family, and it still, you know, looks brand new pretty much. And that's impressive. It really is. The interior is in fantastic shape. It's all original. It's the original matching numbers, engine. Everything's original. My great grandma owned it until '85, I think, and then she gave it to my great aunt, who had it until about '98 when she was diagnosed with dementia. She couldn't drive anymore. The car was parked in a barn on her farm property for 22 years, I believe, because I got this in 2020. And, you know, she passed away, unfortunately, but they were all looking through a property, and they found this car among a bunch of other older cars from the 50s and 60s in the barn that hadn't run. They all had tarps over them, and they all were just time capsules. This car had tabs on it. It's got new plates on it now, but it had old, like the 90s style license plates with 1998 tabs on it. It was pretty wicked. They lost the title, so I had to apply for a new title and all that stuff, but you know, overall, it was worth the wait because this car just rode like a dream. It drives excellent. It's just amazing. You know, the reason that I didn't get one of the 50s cars is because they sold all that shit. This was the only one that didn't sell, and they were like, well, who are we going to give it to now? Nobody wants this old 70s car. It gets like 9 miles to the gallon. It's not the most, you know, attractive car. I like the way it looks, but I like this 70s stuff. Not many people do. So, you know, they gave it to me for a high school graduation gift last year, 2020. So, it's my car now. And I'm not going to turn it into any, you know, fancy, you know, race car, or some people want me to put those stupid chrome rims on it. I'm not doing any of that shit because this car has survived, you know, over 50 years of daily use, and it still looks the way it does. It's gonna stay the way it does until the day I die. I'm never getting rid of this car. It does have one dent right here. I didn't do that. That was like that. That would have been my great aunt. They did what they call in my family we call the granny streak. She pulls up too close to the gas pump, get gas, and then she turns the car really sharp when she moves out of the gas, and it hooks onto the side post and streaks down the back of the car. And this one's a really severe incident of that. It's got scrapes and scratches, and it's missing some trim here, and it's got a big old dent right here. I'm not sure you can see that on camera, but you know, it's got streaks across the fender skirt here, and this hubcap isn't the matching one. I think it's on the other side, but there was streaks all over the hubcap too from where this thing was rubbing up on it on the inside. So, you know, that's unfortunate. This one, I don't know if you can see that, but I did do that. I did the same thing she did, but it wasn't a gas pump. It was trying to pull it into my shop because this car is so ungodly big that you can't pull it in at an angle like you can my other cars. You have to pull it in just a straight shot ahead. Otherwise, you know, you'll crook the car on the edge of the shop, and it ripped this whole piece of trim off. I had to glue it back on, and it did that little damage on the bottom. But this door already is messed up from my great aunt, so it's not like it was, you know, if it was on the other side, I would have been pissed, but this side, it was just kind of like, meh, oh well, that kind of sucks, right? Anyway, so that's that car. And then most of you will probably be wondering about this truck here. This truck actually isn't mine. This belongs to my cousin, who has too many trucks at his property right now, so he has it here, and he's letting me use it. But honestly, I'm thinking about buying it from him because it's a nice truck. It's a 5-speed manual. It's got a topper on it. It's a Lariat. It's got all the, you know, 4x4. It's got all the bells and whistles, power seats, power windows, vent windows, AC, all the good stuff. All the luxuries, you could say. It does need a new gas tank in the front. The front one, the line's rusted off, so it can't be used. But apart from that, it's a pretty good truck. It's got a brand new transmission in it. I'm thinking about buying it from him for a couple $1,000 and just using it as a, you know, work truck. So that might happen. I'll probably release a video on it if it does. Alright, last but not least, here we've got this car. Now this, I already released a video on this. This is a 1983 Oldsmobile 98 Regency. And right now it needs, the starter is literally out of it. I've got to take it to get it rebuilt because it's cranking slow and the battery's brand new. So there's your starter motor going out for you. This car I bought for $2,500 over in Wisconsin. It was a 350-mile drive, and I didn't trailer it. I drove the thing. And it's a project. It needs work. It's missing some trim. It's missing that fender skirt. All that stuff that it's missing is in the trunk. It just needs to be reattached. The rear suspension is brand new. Front suspension is really worn out. It needs to be replaced. It had a lot of electrical issues that I've solved since I got it. It needed a new radio, which I went and got a really nice refurbished Cadillac Symphony Sound tape deck in there, which you'll soon find out if you watch my channel enough that I really am a fan of cassette decks. I think they're the best option to put in a car for auxiliary sound. I don't like Bluetooth. I don't like, you know, CDs are useless to me because I like to use my own music that I like. So you can get a cassette adapter and throw it in the car, and yeah, it's a cheap $20 thing versus a $50 Bluetooth radio that doesn't even work with my phone. So, you know, I really, really like tape decks. But, yeah, it needed, you know, a tune-up, needed a new AC compressor, which I've got on there, needed a new smog pump, needed a new alternator. All the belt-driven shit was all seized up because, you know, this car had sat in a, you know, some guy's backyard since, I think he said 1991. So the thing's been sitting forever, and it had all these issues, which I've solved most of it. It needs the front shocks, it needs a gas tank, and it needs a starter, and then it's ready to be driven down the road. A little bit of rust there on the door, which I'm gonna fix. It's gonna get patched. The vinyl top is in pretty rough shape. It's been cooking in the sun for the last 30 years, so, you know, probably not the greatest thing. This is one of them padded vinyl tops. I'm not sure how I'm going to replace this one. I might end up not, which is kind of sad because the car's in such great shape otherwise, but it's going to be a daily driver. This is going to be the car that I use instead of that car in the wintertime. Because, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, why don't you put these old cars away for the winter? I don't like new cars, like, at all. I've never owned a car from later than 95. That's the newest car I've ever owned. And I think that's about it for me, because I don't like working on fuel injection. I don't like the way it drives. I like the old stuff. And, you know, this stuff, you can get it for cheap enough and good enough shape that you can use these as winter, you know, daily drivers in the wintertime, and they'll take it. They handle well. They're heavy. You just throw a bunch of sand in the back so you don't fishtail in the ice, and, you know, you're set. You're good to go. So that's what this one's going to be, is a kind of a backup winter car, winter beater, whatever you want to call it. It's in kind of rough shape. Clear coat's kind of, you know, come off and stuff, but yeah, it'll do its job. So apart from that, I think that's pretty much it. Like I said, I'm just going to release a video, you know, whenever I can on a car. Say I find that I'm doing something. I should have started this channel a lot longer ago. I did a full resuspension job on that Chrysler I told you about, and I couldn't find any information on how to change leaf springs anywhere online for an M body like that. It was a big body. It wasn't a K car like a lot of people probably think when they think of Chrysler in the 80s. But you know, I wish I'd recorded that video, because that would have been really helpful for someone to watch that video and see, oh, this is how you do it. You don't have to mess around with this, that, and the other thing. I don't have to mess around with, you know, look online. I can just find this video that this guy provided. So, you know, that's my goal with this channel, is to provide content for people fixing these cars who don't, you know, these cars don't have a lot of information on them out there. And my hope is to change that. So, you know, videos will be released when they get released. I don't have a schedule. I work full time and I'm going through college, so, you know, I don't have a lot of time. But if I'm doing something and it pops in my head that I should, you know, bring out my phone and start recording a video, I'll do it, and, you know, we'll see where it goes from there. So I hope you all enjoyed watching, those few who did, and I'll see you when I see you. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed.